Ayman Abu Warda. Is he available here? Ayman Abu Warda. If anybody, they can come forward if they need to. There's a space available here as well. طيب الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم آت نفوسنا تقواها وزكها أنت خير من زكاها أنت وليها ومولاها. جزاكم الله خير everyone for attending tonight's program. I don't think what's happening in Gaza and Palestine in general is absent from almost every Muslim community member's minds and heart. And we're watching the news attentively, even during break and during work, during our breaks and so on. We just step in to see what's the latest. But there is nothing like bringing it home. And what we want to do tonight, inshallah, is invite some of the brothers and sisters who have relatives in Gaza, whether they are alive or became shuhada, rahmatullah alayhim, to tell us and share some of their personal stories with us. I would like to ask the speakers to to introduce themselves at the beginning, and then take 5-7 minutes to relay their own personal stories about what happened in Gaza. But by way of introduction, and even though I prepared a brief history of Gaza, but really I'm just going to skim through it. As you know, and especially for the youth, if they have not, who have not experienced this history, the Muslims in Palestine have endured this occupation starting in 1948. And even before that, with the British mandate, called so-called mandate in Palestine. So in 1948, of course, the State of Israel was established at the expense of the Palestinians there. And they were driven, among them my own family, to either other parts of Palestine, which is the topic of what we're talking about now, Gaza, because some of them immigrated to Gaza, and some of them were driven completely out, including my family. So tens of thousands of people have been driven out in the Nakba, what we call the Nakba, the catastrophe in 1948. And the population in Gaza almost overnight grew to about 200,000 people. In the 50s and 60s, Egypt ruled Gaza. And that lasted until the 1967 war, as many of you know, where basically the Jewish state occupied Gaza and the West Bank. In 1987 was the first Intifada, or the uprising, which is basically a civilian population who were fed up with occupation, rose up against it, and with no weapons whatsoever except the stone. The throwing of the stone became sort of the symbol that many of you, I'm sure, have seen. The politicians tried to contain it through the Oslo Agreement in 1993 by signing the Oslo Accord, and supposedly the Palestinians would get limited control of Jericho and Gaza, and then within a few years' time, it was supposed to turn into fully Palestinian state. And of course, the Israelis reneged on their promises. In fact, if the Oslo Agreement was put into effect, we should be celebrating the 25th anniversary of the creation of the State of Palestine, which of course didn't happen. What we ended up with is a police state in the West Bank that is an extension of the occupation. By the way, just a disclaimer, I do not represent the IR, so if any of my comments please attribute them to me personally. Gaza was under starvation and war since then till now, basically. It has endured 4 wars, and we're witnessing the 5th one. In 2006, one highlight is that there has been elections in Gaza, and the Islamic movement, Hamas, won the elections, which drove the West and a lot of supporters of the Palestinian Authority. Basically, they went crazy because this was not supposed to happen. Actually, I found a quote by Hillary Clinton lately that was really an eye-opener. She said, while talking to Eli Chomsky, editor of the Jewish Press, the former First Lady admits America should have, quote unquote, done something to determine who was going to win the recent vote. So that's the democracy. You conduct elections, and you should have controlled who would win. Because their guys didn't win, Hamas and Gaza all over, the whole population was put under siege, complete siege, air, land, sea, to the point of starvation. And it was a brutal blockade. The population of Gaza was about 2.1 million people, living in a 6 by 25 miles. Unemployment is 45%. What's called food insecurity is 64%. Food insecurity basically means you don't eat 3 meals a day. You go hungry during the day. 64%. Can you imagine? So I want to leave the rest for people to talk, but the first Gaza war was in December 2008. 1,400 Palestinians killed and only 13 Israelis. Second war in November 2012, and 168 people in Gaza were killed, 6 Israelis. Third war, which took 50 days. 2,251 Palestinians were dead, 17,800 homes damaged, and so on. I'm not going to bore you with a lot of statistics, but the fourth war was in 2021, lasted 11 days, and 250 dead and including 129 civilians. Now the fifth war that we are witnessing, at least 14,800 people killed, including 6,000 children and 4,000 women. There are missing at least 7,000 people. Where do you think those would be, among the living or the dead? So add those to the 14,000, you end up with roughly 20,000 people killed so far. And in the West Bank, 229, including 52 children. In the Jewish state, killed about 1,200 people. Of course, we don't know among those 1,200 who were killed by the Israeli military, as now the news is showing that Israel has actually bombed its own civilians to get rid of the people who were the incursion. So that's the devastation that is happening in Gaza. Again, I want to stop here. I don't want to take the whole time. And I would like to invite our speakers to relay their personal stories and experience, whether they have lived in Gaza or previously they're now in the United States, or they have family members who are still in Gaza. So please first introduce yourself and tell us what your own story, basically. Let's start from the right.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Hussein Abu Zarqa. I'm a Palestinian. My family immigrated from the south of Palestine. Used to be called Bi'r al-Saba. Renamed it to Beersheba. To 1948, they went to Gaza city. And it was planned, like they're doing now. They bombed Gaza, so people can move out of Gaza. So that's what they did to my hometown. They bombed that city, and people moved from that city to Gaza, and they had homes for them ready in the city of Khan Yunis. City of Khan Yunis in the south of Gaza. So they had homes ready for each family immigrated from that town, the original town, to the city of Khan Yunis. My father was, I want to say, he was kicked out of Palestine, early 60s, and he went to Kuwait. He taught for 60 years, and he could not go back because he's been out before 1967. Now, my whole family now there in Gaza, my wife, parents, and family, they're all in Gaza. So this war, I believe, united the whole world this time, and they know the truth of the occupation. It's an apartheid occupation. It showed to the whole world that Palestinians live in worse than slavery, worse than slavery. They cannot drink water till they take permission from the occupation. They cannot have electricity till they have permission from the occupation. They cannot make phone calls till they take permission from the occupation. They cannot have food till they have permission from the occupation. And this is what this war showed up the whole world, what the apartheid state is doing. I'm going to tell you about my own family. These 48 days, they had no food, no water, no electricity, phone calls been disrupted. The only communication we had every few days, we had text messages. We cannot talk in details because it's monitored by the soldiers, by Shabak, you know. It's anything you say extra, they target your house. Anything you say on the phone, they target your house. Doesn't matter who is in the house. So this war is not about Hamas, like they say. It was planned. I had families in the north of Gaza, in Jabalia, more than 60 families. They wiped them out. They had nothing to do with Hamas. Their only mistakes is they are Muslims, Palestinians. In the city of Khan Yunis, they made people move down from the north to the south. They say, if you move to the south, you're in safe haven. They bombed the south more than the north. People don't know that. My grandfather's family, house, it was like maybe 3 bedrooms and a bathroom and a regular kitchen. It's just a small house. Almost 100 persons lived in that house during the 48 days. And they had a threat one day from one of those soldiers that we're gonna bomb your house. So imagine what happened. The father went to a different house, the mother went to a different house. They took the children somewhere they think is safe, and it's just spreaded everybody. And we all believe that, if your end comes, it comes. We all ask Allah for the, husn al-khatima. And this is husn al-khatima, al-shahada, And these people, they don't know what is going to happen to them. A lot of my families, they spread it. The father lived, the mother and the wife and the children died. And this is what happened. But this war, it taught the whole world, the Muslims before the non-Muslims, you know, Palestine is under occupation. Me and this brother, remember 2000, we made another lesson like this one about Jenin. People used to ask us, where is the Palestinian army? Now people woke up and they know we have no army. The people who's fighting, they are regular people. Just regular people. They're fighting to defend their homes. There's no army. There's no terrorist. It's a resistant groups. That's all what it is. Children are fighting now to defend their homes. When a child throwing a rock, it's coming out of his heart. It's a totally disaster. It's a total disaster. It's a total disaster. I don't know how much I can say, but if you live there, you'll feel it. I feel it because I have family there, but I still don't feel the whole thing. People there, they tell me, when you call them, only thing you say, how you doing? They're the one who asking me, how am I doing? That breaks my heart. They ask me, how am I doing? And their members have killed. It's incredible. It breaks my heart. So help as much as you can. They need your help. At least you can make dua. The least is make dua for these people. People, they're happy because they're releasing some prisoners. You don't know what's happening to these prisoners. These prisoners, before even left, they told them you cannot have any members other than your dad and your mother and your sister and your house. If you bring other people to party, to celebrate that you are released from prison, you're going to go back to prison. It's an apartheid. It's a totally apartheid. You cannot walk in the street. You cannot do anything in the street. You cannot do anything in the street. They went there just to kill the children before anybody else. They're not even looking for Hamas. They're looking for the children. They're looking for the regular people there to kill. They're killing the doctor. The doctor has nothing to do with anything. The nurse. That's all I can say, brothers. Jazakum Allah khair.
And this last comment about who they're killing, I think we have seen enough to realize that this is the plan. The plan is punishment of the whole society. Anybody does anything, they demolish his house. Something that's banned internationally. They want to kill the children because then the families will realize how painful it is to resist. They're killing the doctors so that they know that whoever is injured will not find treatment. It's not haphazard. It is systematic destruction of the society. Wallahu musta'an. So let's go next to the young sister here. If you could introduce yourself.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Rana Farawi, and I'm going to speak on behalf of my dad. He's out of town right now, and I'll be reading something that he wrote from his point of view. Yeah. Okay. Is this better? Okay. So this is from my dad's point of view. My name is Mahmoud Far'awi. I was born in 1961 in Ash-Shati refugee camp in Gaza. My parents are both survivors of the Nakba, also known as the catastrophe of 1948. My dad was forced out of his hometown of Al Khairiyah, about 3 miles west of Jaffa, and my mom was forced out of her hometown of Jaffa. My parents were married in Gaza in 1949 and stayed there until my dad was able to move the family to Kuwait. Because of this, I'm fortunate to not have any of my siblings in Gaza now during this ongoing aggression, but unfortunately, I do have a lot of relatives in Gaza. Between my aunt, my cousins, and their children, I believe I have around 150 relatives there right now. They have been suffering not just since October 7th, but since May 1948. Just in the last almost 2 months, I lost around 18 members of my extended family. We lost my cousin, his wife, and 7 of their children. We lost my cousin's daughter and her 1-year-old baby. I have a cousin who lost 4 sons, another cousin who lost her husband, her son, and just this past Tuesday, a cousin of mine lost a daughter in the south, in Khan Yunis. There is a 6-story apartment building that belonged to my cousin in the north of Gaza that has been destroyed. This building housed over 60 people who are now homeless. My relatives in the north were told to move south by the Israeli forces, and they did move south, yet they're still being bombed. My cousin, mentioned earlier, who lost his life alongside his wife and 7 of his kids, had opened the doors of his home and was providing shelter to around 50 other people when his home was targeted by Israeli airstrikes. To this day, we don't know how many others were lost and are currently under the rubble of his home. My late father owns a 10-acre farm in Gaza with a home he built on that farm. The farm and the home have been destroyed by the airstrikes. We are lucky no one was living there at the time. This experience is just my own. There are hundreds here in Raleigh with personal ties to Gaza, and that each have stories just as terrible and worse about what their family is going through at the hands of the Zionist state. We pray that Allah has mercy on the martyrs and their families, and inshallah we see a free Palestine soon.
Jazakallah khair. The more stories we hear, the more convinced we are. This is brutal aggression that is beyond belief, beyond the pale, beyond our comprehension or understanding. Just a quick comment on what Brother Hussein said. I've heard through my wife's family, who also lives in Gaza, and Brother Jihad will talk about that. The extended family lives in Gaza. That some families now, there are 2 practices. One practice is to actually not spread the family around, but move together and stay together. The reason, you may ask, so that if they're bombed, they're all killed. They don't want to have the father remaining while all his family, wife, daughters, grandchildren survive. If they want to go, if it's Allah's fate, they want to all go together. So that's a common practice. Another common practice that you may have seen is to write the names of the kids on their arms and legs. Because when the bombs come in and they're shredded into pieces, at least they'd be able to recognize who died and who did not. Because at least an arm is left. So just let that sink in. All right, my next speaker is Brother Jihad. Can you please do introduction?
Thank you, Iyad. Before I start introducing myself, I would like to ask a question to our youth. How many do we have under the age of 18? Under the age of 18, please. Under the age of 18, 15, 16, 17, 18. So we have pretty good numbers. And these are the youth that we need to talk to them. These are the generation that we need to raise and make sure that they are going to hold the flag as we did hold the flag for generations. My name is Jihad Shawa. Jihad Shawa. Shawa family is from Gaza Strip, generation after generation after generation. And as Hisham Sarsour has called us, or used to call us, and he will call us the indigenous. That means we are really the Shawa, and we are from Gaza Strip. A lot of you probably have known me. I've been living in this area for the last almost 30 years. I'm a little bit active, but I slowed down a little bit with the situation, and that's what I thought. But it's on the contrary. I am 71 years old, and there is no one day that I rested or I slept for 8 hours. Every time I go to buy grocery, I feel like I'm doing something wrong to my people. Every time I go and do something for my family, I feel like I'm not doing it right, because I have a major family in Gaza that they need my attention. I would like to thank Hussein, my brother from Gaza. I would like to thank Mahmoud's daughter. Mahmoud Far'awi is a real good friend from Gaza for what they have shared about their families and situation in Gaza. I am gonna take you on a little bit of a trip that shows you Gaza through me. At least I can talk about it. I was born in Gaza, in a place called, and I don't know, many of you have heard about it. It's not a big place, but by name it is a big place. It's called Shijaiya. Anybody have heard? It's a Hay, Shijaiya. And do you know what Shijaiya means? If you go and translate it to Gazan accent. Shijaiya, it means the place that brings Shij'an, brave, the braveries. That's where I was born in. And I don't like the name. I used to tell my dad, what is Shijaiya? Actually, I was born in my grandmother's house. And my grandfather's house is in a place called, it's a little bit step up. It's a little bit higher level. It calls Rimal. That's where I have lived. And people from Gaza know the place. I have a big family in Gaza, as well as big family all around the world. Brother Iyad is one of my family, but not the Shawa. The people who were smart to marry from the Shawa. His wife is my first cousin. And she is such a wonderful lady, as well as Iyad is a wonderful part of the family. I have a brother who lives in Gaza. And on the second day, after the 7th, his house was demolished. So my sister called me and she said, your house of your brother is being demolished. What are we gonna do? I said, it's God's done and God's will do. I cannot do anything except if there is anything in specific I can do it. Well, the days go past, and then another message which I've shared with a lot of you. 21 person from the Shawa family living in a building that's been for the Shawa, and the Shawa's residence in that building is being bombarded 21 people got killed. 10 of these people, they were friends, and I've known them because I lived in Kuwait before I came to the state. That was 30 years ago. And they have lived with me, or we lived together. We used to go to the Kuwaiti beach. We used to live together. We used to love each other. We used to quarrel. We used to tease each other. That somebody went to NC State and I went to Texas Tech University. So those were the days. But I thought I am sad. But in reality, when people come and talk to me about my family, they congratulate me. Brother Jihad, congratulations. And it makes me so proud. إن هذا وعد الله. This is not my happiness that I got. This is God's fulfillment. ولا تحسبن الذين قتلوا أمواتا عند ربهم إنما هم أحياء عند ربكم يرزقون. So this is an honor for me. And I should take it as an honor. And I would like to thank whoever called me the other day and said, Brother Jihad, we want you to come and talk. And you know what? I love to talk. I love to talk to the young generation, to the young people, because you're responsible for what's happening today. As I was responsible, and I am responsible for what's happening for the last 10, 15 years. This is a flag of Islam, flag of humanity, flag of bravery, flag of justice, and flag of peace that we have to keep giving it to one another. Now, you need to talk about my family. What should I say about my family? It's a family. It's a big family. And I believe the story of every Palestinian family is well known by now. Now the question is, what is going to happen? 4 days. My God. We have 4 days to live without bombing. But in every day of these 4 days, they can come and fly on the top of our head from 4 o'clock till 10 o'clock the next day and see what we are doing. You know, I was talking to a friend just before we finished the Salat. And he came to me and he said, do you know, Brother Jihad, we have gained a lot. I said, what are you talking about? And he said, the fight in Gaza, the fight of Hamas, which is not Hamas in reality, it is the Palestinian people. It is not Hamas. Hamas what? 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 100,000? But Hamas is part of the Palestinian net. Hamas is inside every Gazan and Palestinian home. I'm not from Hamas, but you know what? For God's sake, sometimes I go and I pray that Hamas will lead us to the right way. What is the right way? Now, Hamas is classified as a terrorist group. Who did that? The State Department? Hell with the State Department. Blinken? Who did that? In few years, Hamas might be one of the United States ally. It depends, are they going to get use of it or not? That's what counts, my friends. I think I have been for more than 8 minutes.
You're on time.
So Brother Iyad is telling me it's enough is enough. Listen, I wanted to end up with saying few things. The flag needs people to raise it. You are responsible. Whether you are 42, Imam, or you are 18, my friends. The flag of justice, the flag of peace, the flag of Allah. Thank you so much.
Jazakallah khair, Abu Ashraf. We can go one more round, but I'd like to ask the audience if any of you have family stories related to Gaza or heard some that you want to contribute. I'd like to welcome you to say a few words as well. Anybody, just raise a hand and we'll get you the microphone. Yeah, the sisters, I mean everybody, the sisters of course included. So any sister who would like to participate? Okay. No, I should, that doesn't look, yeah. I think Brother Hussein wanted to add something.
I think Abu Ashraf, Brother Jihad has done a great job. I cannot do more than what he said. I mean, he's the oldest brother of all the Gazawiyan down here, but he's done a great job explaining the situation. And when they say people, they granted the Shahada and other people injured, you just want to know what means of injured. Injured is lost of his arm, lost both arms, loss of both legs. This is what injured means in Gaza. Nothing is like a scratch. There's no scratch in Gaza. So all we need a lot of dua for these poor people. We are very poor people. And it's going to be same, it's going to happen, they're saying, in West Bank. The West Bank is going through a lot, but they're hiding all the stories about West Bank. Now they're making hospitals, building hospitals. إيش معنى ميداني hospital? Field hospitals. Jordan is donating field hospitals, and they're closing the borders like they're done in Gaza. Egypt did. Jordan is doing the same thing. They're expecting a lot of disasters going to happen also in the West Bank, and it's happening. So a lot of prayers need, a lot of prayers. People there don't need money right now. They need a lot of prayers.
Okay, let me comment. I just have a few comments. I mean, sisters and brothers, it's not all tragedy. The Muslims at the time of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you know, sometimes they would go into a situation they think all of us would think it's a disaster, but there is, what is the term, silver lining. There would be the support from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that more than make up for the losses. And subhanallah, as the ayat in the Quran said about the Bani Israel being supported by people, it seems like Allah's His wisdom is that the tide is turning. We have never seen the world interacting and supporting Palestine as it has now. Never in my life have I seen this. In fact, there are several Israeli government officials and even in lobby groups in the states who are sounding the alarm. You know, they do statistics, a lot of statistics. Just one statistic about the TikTok media posts that are pro-Israel versus pro-Palestine. It's unimaginable. It's something like 50-1. And we're talking about hundreds of millions of posts that are pro-Palestine. They know they are losing the public opinion battle. Actually, it's lost already. Where we have our battle now is with policymakers. Unfortunately, Genocide Joe and the other, whether Republican or Democrats, are the ones who are supporting that apartheid state, the genocidal state of Israel. That's where we need to focus on, not just through politics, but through a lot of other areas. I think we should not belittle any kind of resistance. In fact, I liked Sheikh Muammar's khutbah today about, you know, it's resistance is built into us. This is what Prophet Muhammad ﷺ taught us. We cannot live this life without calling for justice for ourselves and others. And yes, during this struggle, we will be hit with calamities, we will be hit by loss of life and loss of money and so on. But this is life, dear brothers and sisters. At the end, justice will prevail. And we have seen, and I'm sure I'm not the only one who's amazed by the turnout of support by people, not just Palestinians. I've seen Jewish people who are, I mean, I wouldn't even, coming from the Middle East, do what they're doing. They're actually blocking highways, they're blocking train stations, I've attended one of their organizations, Jewish Voice for Peace, in Durham last weekend, and I'm amazed at the energy and what they're doing. Also the Muslim community. And really here, a shout out to really our young sisters who have taken the lead in this resistance. Anybody who attends any protest or goes to the city council meeting like we've done and so on cannot miss this sight of our sisters being at the forefront and in the mayor's face and actually, not being shy about it, like their dads. You know, we're a bit political. We don't want to say it outright. But, you know, even my daughter says, "What are you afraid of? To the heck with it." That's how she's reacting. At work, in the street, with, it's amazing what those young kids are doing. I just hope that the young men will follow. That's the gap we're having. But really, I think the tide is turning. But just like at the time even of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, it took several battles to get to Fath Makkah. It's not, and it took some Ghazwat Uhud, right, where they were defeated, the Muslims, even with Prophet Muhammad ﷺ among them. So there are lessons to be learned. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promised us victory. It may happen at our time, may not happen at our time. But our duty is to actually do something about it. One thing that I like to describe or hope to describe the Muslim community is by saying the Muslim community is a missionary community. We hear the word missionary in the context of evangelicals and Christians and so on. I want to bring it back to the root of the word, meaning the Muslim community is where the members of the community all have a mission. You have a mission. So what is your role? What are you doing? whether the generally participating in protests, writing letters, trying to bust into the political offices and so on, and force it on those politicians who are, by the way, now avoiding and closing their offices because of how powerful these reminders are. They're afraid to meet with us. So that's one method of resistance. I mean, the people there are giving their lives. So the least we can do is to really have a mission in life. And that mission is, what is my role in supporting the struggle for justice in Palestine? What's the role of each one of us? There are general things that we can do, but also I invite myself and every one of you to look for one area where you can specialize in. I like I have a friend, Iraqi brother, who got interested in BDS, the movement to boycott, divest, and sanctions against Israel. And excellent, go focus on it. Find out more what we need to do, etc. So each one of us, I believe, has a mission and has to follow through it to make sure that what am I doing that makes a difference, that contributes to where we're going. That's how we become a community with a mission. All of our members have a mission to carry out, and not just be bystanders. So I don't want to take more time, but really I encourage you, brothers and sisters, to really find your mission. Find your mission, what you want to do or you are doing, inshallah, to advance this struggle for justice forward. Any questions, maybe from the, yes, sir.
Now interested in this issue of Palestine, being it in the demonstration or in the city council, what have you, and you are one of them. What was the difference? I mean, we had a war in 2014, I guess, in Gaza, and there was not much interest in this discussion. What is it?
I think one of the major things is social media. I think people are seeing with their own eyes the discrepancies between what the media is showing us and what the live action videos are showing us. And the kids these days, they're not scared. We're not the type to just obey to authority and think that, we might lose our jobs. I think this generation, we have a lot of problems. And part of it is that we don't care about a lot of stuff, but it's a good thing that we don't care and we're not tied to, art. For example, my dad, I remember he also used to tell us, be careful what you're sharing. Don't be too hard on the people. You have to be slow, show them, the ex-IDF soldiers and what they say. That way it's gonna start ensuring their brain, and we have to start saying no, Baba, my voice, the Palestinian voice is more important. I don't care how we can do it. We don't need to do it gently anymore. There's people dying, there's a child dying every 10 minutes. We can't be gentle anymore. So I feel like our generation, we kind of have that strength, and we have social media as a tool, and so things are changing from that perspective.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yes, yeah.
Assalamu alaikum. What is your thought, and excuse me if I sound far out there, what is your thought about people thinking that this is some type of prophecy? If this is like a sign of Jesus coming back. To elaborate further, I have an uncle. He was talking about the Middle East crisis. He said, this is prophecy. This is a sign that basically Jesus and all of them is coming back. But if you really look at it at the end of the day, basically there's more people, innocent Palestinian lives are being killed for that. What is your thought about that?
Well, actually, I'm going to refer the answer to Brother Iyad, but I wanted to take a minute or so giving you what I've been hearing as well. I talk to people who are really, they go by the book, whether they are Christian, whether they are Jewish, or whether they are Muslims. From the Muslim side, I have been hearing, listen, you don't have to do anything. It's been written, and these are the signs. So I said, MashaAllah, I am living, and I hope I can see it. From the Christian point of view, it says, well, go to book so and so and so. It's written. And I say, Insha'Allah, I am living, and I wanted to see it. From the Jewish point of view, they say, well, it's God. God has promised us. God has given us. I said, Insha'Allah, I am living, and I would love to see it. And then I will give the rest of the answer to Brother Iyad.
Jazakallah khair. Well, you know, this is an amazing question. I have been researching this and looking into this because I believe a lot of the power that even the Jewish lobby has under the surface is evangelical Christianity. It's Zionist Christians. Just a couple of incidents. When the war started in Gaza, I had a meeting with a colleague of mine who's an evangelical. So we started the meeting. It was a work meeting, and he said, "How are you doing?" I said, "Peachy, other than 10,000 people being killed, slaughtered, and a kid dying every 10 minutes, and hospitals being bombed, and mosques and churches, everything is going well." I told him, and I just went on him. I said, I no longer believe, I think the Christians are hypocrites in his face with all what, and he said, I told him, I lost faith at all with all these interfaith and these people who talk about morality. There's no more morality. This just shows the lie. And he was taken aback. He said, Iyad, please, can you listen? I said, okay. He said, I'm among some of the Christians who don't believe in that. There is a branch of Christianity, and he used terms, I heard it before, dispensationalism, where they believe that there are stages in life where God has prophesied, or the book has prophesied that things will happen. And he said, a good number of us don't believe in that, believe that the Bible was interpreted wrongly. So I think we should attack that. We should not just say, okay, that's the belief. Those people are not following the Bible, basically, in my book. And we should not shy away from that, from pointing out that what you're doing is it's almost devil worship. It's not God worship. On the other hand, I recently met with, through a friend, a good friend whose good friend is a reverend, a Palestinian reverend, a Christian from Palestine who lives in Atlanta, Georgia. And started communicating with him and so on. Do you guys know that the Christians in Palestine are being bombed and their churches are being bombed? They're being killed just like Muslims are? Exactly. So I think there is also this angle that we need to explore and figure out how we can raise this issue of Christians being persecuted by the Jewish state. and not just give up to the saying that evangelicals just win that war. That's also a war. It's for the soul and minds of Christians in this country. And we should challenge that. And we can find allies. And really, if any of you know of people of other faiths in the area who don't subscribe to this, I'd like to also meet with them and explore that. Some of you might find this is crazy, this is well-entrenched belief and so on. I think it's a very thin and narrow thing that they're relying on that can be challenged. And especially that there are Christians in the United States who don't believe in that. So are those Christians going to hell and you're going to paradise? We need to challenge that as well. I'm sorry if anybody wants to. Yeah.
That church in Gaza is the third oldest church in the world. And I have a friend of mine, he's a Christian from Gaza. He lost almost 60 members from his family. His grandmother, she built the school behind that church. And that's what proved to you the war is a genocide. It's not against Hamas, it's against civil people. So this is what proves that anybody who lives in Gaza is just, he's gonna be wiped out.
Anybody would like to comment on this? Okay. Yes, sister.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Jazakum Allahu khairan, brothers and my sister. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala تقبل كل الشهداء عنده. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala اصطفى الشعب الفلسطيني. Subhanallah, our brother, he talks about we should have a mission. Subhanallah, we all witness how a 6-year-old boy remind his brother to say shahada before he died. We witness how 9-year-old girl, she said to someone was asking her about her dad, she said, Baba talab shahada unalha. Subhanallah, we all witness a 9-year-old boy reciting Quran on the top of Damar. So I just, I want to imagine the kind of the mom who raised this kind of kids, what kind of tarbiyah that those kids in this early age, they can talk with this strong voice in the middle of all of this. This is tarbiyah of Quran, is tarbiyah of Iman. So the first thing we have to work on is ourselves. We have to stop what we are doing right now. Subhanallah, brother is describing the life of Palestinians. No water, no electricity, no food, nothing. We have everything, and we became very sensitive. Even if we don't have like something very small, we miss something in our life, we became like see life as a dark, and we start blaming our kids. We always offer for them multiple choices. So I believe that we have to focus on raising kids of Iman, kids of Quran, establish strong relationship with masjid, teach our kids khashyat Allah, fearness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with the respect. This is what we have to focus on. All of the kids in Gaza, they're not normal kids. They don't have even the smallest thing our kids have, and look at them, they talk with a strong, with a confidence. They talk about the mafhum of shahada. A 7 years old knows what does it mean shahada. So our mission, for me as a mom, how we can stand up for this is to raise our kids of Quran and of Iman. Astaghfirullah al-azim.
Just to follow up to what you talked about the Christian issue and the Jewish issue. Some of you have watched videos before October 7 where Jews were spitting on Christians in the old city of Jerusalem. And basically those Jews were spitting on pilgrims from Philippines and looks to be South Korea from their faces. Of course, if they spit on a Christian or Muslim Palestinian, they will hit them in the face. Now, when they did this spitting, and by the way, the video is on BBC, you can see it. Then they brought another video where the Jews are spitting in front of the churches. So they pass by the church door, spit, and move. Whenever they pass, because there are too many churches in the old city. So I start looking where this spitting came from. Because one of the settlers says this is an old Jewish tradition. Old Jewish tradition. Compared with how the Muslims treated the Jews and the Christians all those 1400 years. It turned out that the original of this spitting came from, at the time of what they claim, the crucifixion of Isa alayhi salam, which we do not believe in, that the Jews who were around the cross were spitting on the person on the cross. That's where this tradition came. And if you talk to Christians, that you give them all the weapons, you give them all the money, you give them that, and this is what you get at the end of the day. An old Jewish tradition of spitting on your church and on your people.
Maybe we have time for one more question or comment. Anybody? Yes.
Yeah, Jazakumullah khairan, Iyad. Good to hear from you. Yeah, as you were saying that you were having the discussion with the Reverend from Palestine. Yeah, the recent reports were saying that the Christians in Gaza and West Bank are on the brink of extinction.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Recently, I mean these days, we start hearing that what happened in October 7 is all Hamas' fault. And because what they did, that's why we have this all destruction and tragedy in Gaza and been so many 14,000, 13,000 people die. And what you answer for this is it really Hamas' fault what they did?
Maybe we'll take this offline, but let me respond to this because there has been some talk about it. And actually, we probably need another session for this. But I and others believe if October 7th didn't happen, Masjid al-Aqsa, we could have seen it being demolished in front of our eyes. Yes. What this means is that you and I and everybody now becomes fard ayn. What are you going to do about it? Actually, what Hamas did, it is something that it did for the whole ummah. Otherwise, we will have been in a much worse position. And then, I don't want to belittle our sacrifices. And of course, we are here enjoying good life versus people in Gaza. But Algeria gave 1.5 million martyrs. That doesn't mean that 20,000 is a small number. But when you are aiming for something high, There is a higher purpose, and especially, I think even when you compare Algeria with Jerusalem, I mean, we know where the focus is. We should be ready to sacrifice. Now, all of this, what we talked about in terms of the world turning against the apartheid state, wouldn't have happened unless this took place. So there, I mean, we probably need just another session to go through all of, these point by point. But I truly believe that it was actually fath from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that led us and the world into this. So many people that we thought, democracy and all of that, all of these now are plain hypocrisy that's playing out in front of not just us, the citizens of the world are seeing their politicians for what they are. Colonial powers, that's just what it is. It's colonialism. So with that, I think we need to conclude, and just so that we conclude on a little bit lighter note. I know my wife would not want me to say this story, but after October 7th, October 8th, yeah, she's your cousin. So I would go in the house, and everything she does, I would say, oh, excellent, excellent. Everything is good. The food, the house. She said, what's wrong with you? I told her, no, are you crazy? I'm not messing with a Muslim woman from Gaza. No way. So I think, no, this is, in a way, I'm joking, but it is actually the Gazans have taught us courage and have taught us, it's almost unhuman, the amount of their perseverance, the courage, their persistence, and something that we hear about in stories, our experience of things happening on the ground as we see it.
Well, actually, I want to, before we end up, and I'll give him the microphone again, I want to tell you a joke. And this joke that shows you how much Brother Iyad owes me. No, I'm serious. I'm going to prove it for you in a minute. His wife and I and my cousin, which is her father, his father-in-law, we were making Umrah in Saudi Arabia. I was in Jeddah, and then she came with her father to join school. So they said, let's go and do Umrah. And I said, well, great. So I took the day off, and I went, me and Sister Samar and her father. And we went to Mecca. Before we entered and started, we said that we will, each one of us, we might get lost, so we will meet at certain time at this place. And after we done everything and the time to meet, I went and her father came. What happened to my girl? That's what her father started saying. He started worrying about her. My daughter, what happened to her? And mashallah, a lot of hundreds, thousands of people, how are we going to find her? So in this case, I said, well, I'm going to go and see if I can find her. Anyway, I went here and here and here and there, and I found her. Where are you? Come on. So and then I got it back to her father, and I said, here is your daughter. And that shows you how much he owes me, because if we could not find that daughter of my cousin, he won't be the husband. Okay, you can end up now.
وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين. جزاكم الله خير. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد